Welcome everybody for this talk by Amogh Mishram. Uh, he's an alumnus from here, from IIT Bombay, from chemical engineering, and he. I'm happy that he's come forward to explain about how he also had an initial part of relatively low CPI, like many of us, including me, and we will like that this is a very brief period. That is why it helps to see various strategies that he used. So let me tell a little more about him. So he is now pursuing PhD in chemical engineering at Arizona State University, and he has contributed to several academic articles in the field of chemical engineering. He is currently working with the United States Department of Energy and several multinational companies like Danieli, Nucor, ArcelorMittal, Hazen, etc. to implement the first pilot plant for steel making using hydrogen direct reduction in the USA. So he will speak today about how to get accepted for MSc programs or build a career in core industry with a low CPI or in spite of backlogs. I thank Mayank for helping us record this session. So we hope that you are fine with. You can ask queries. The video will is aimed here towards me, and I also thank Vishal for putting us in touch with the speaker. Thank you.
Hi, I would like to thank Professor Bellu for the introduction. And the reason that I came here today is that when I was an undergraduate student, I felt quite lost. I had a very poor academic performance and I felt quite lost. I mean, I was one of you sitting in those back benches a few years ago, but today I'm doing very good in chemical engineering despite my very poor academic record. So let's get started. Now, first of all, I would like to say a disclaimer. Views that are presented in this presentation are my personal views, and since have been my personal journey, the strategy that I have applied may not be the same for everyone. So, and it only gives a perspective through my eyes, what I experienced and how I analyzed the whole situation and the whole education system in our country, starting from the beginning. And the students who are listening to this talk are encouraged to find the best possible solution for themselves and try to find the best possible route that is suitable for their journey. It doesn't necessarily mean that you just straight away copy what I did. You should always be trying to be more creative and find out more creative solutions. So about me, Professor Bellu already introduced me, so I think I'll skip this. But in short, I did a dual degree from IIT Bombay in chemical engineering from 2012 to 2017. And I also worked as a research assistant after my MTech for about 1.5 years at Tata Center for Technology and Design, which is on the ground floor of LCH. And now I'm a 4th year PhD student at Arizona State University. Is everyone okay with English, right? Nobody is uncomfortable with English, right? I just want to be a little bit more inclusive. Okay, let's move on. So this was my academic performance when I finally got my grade of my final semester. I decided that I'll take a snapshot because I already started my journey towards PhD by that time. So I kind of took a snapshot of this image and I decided that one day I will show to the people who laughed at me, who made jokes about me that, oh hey, you do not have a CPI, you are not going to get placed on, nobody is going to take you. So I decided that okay, I'm going to take a snapshot, and you can see that my CPI was the lowest among my batch. I was the last among all the dual degree students in my batch. So I am sure that a lot of you students have a much better CPI than this, and you can do great in core research and core jobs very easily. It's just a mind game. So this is my actual performance now. That was my performance in coursework, but these are all my academic publications. I have given talks at different conferences. I have published papers in academic journal. This is one of my recent ones in one of the very best journals in the field of metallurgy called Metals. I have also published in chemical engineering journals as well as uh, in Journal of Polymers. So I consider this as my actual performance and not the previous slide that I showed you. So I want to go to the beginning, where it all started. When I started to analyze what went wrong, when I got a low CPI, I started to think what must have went wrong. That I have a low CPI and I am in a system where the system is telling me that you are not set to be successful in life. So I started to analyze the whole system from the beginning. So one of the root causes that I found out was the rote learning that we all go through since the beginning. And I have also analyzed the way students learn in the United States. It's very meaningful learning. And in India, unfortunately, rote learning is the way to go, starting from the schools. So what happens in rote learning is we prepare for exam, we learn, we give exam, and then we forget. That's how it happens. In school it happens, then after 10th, most of the students who decide to pursue medical or engineering go for JE or the other NEET, it's NEET, right, or medical, and the process continues. You learn for the exam, you forget about it after the exam. And we also enroll in coaching classes, and there they tell us the biggest lies. Oh, you crack JE and you are a hero and your life is set. One of my professors was like, oh, you are gonna get crores of package. You just have to go inside, you just have to step inside the IIT. So we are bombarded with all these lies and a system which does not help us to understand how to learn in a meaningful way. Okay? And there are also these glorification of small steps. I mean, if someone is just cracking an exam and he is not contributing anything big towards that field, we glorify everything. We glorify from the beginning. In the schools, they write the name of the first person who is coming to the school, who comes rank 1 in the school, who has the highest marks. They write their names on the board. And then we have the whole JE marketing thing, strategy. They just put up everyone's faces everywhere. And the people who could not get their faces, they kind of feel that they have failed somehow. So if you see the other countries' system, like especially I could talk about United States or Europe because I've been there, I see that the system helps the students who are weaker in their studies. So they will focus more on students who are doing relatively not well, and the school, the staff and the faculties would kind of encourage them and help them out instead of just glorifying the people who are on top. They are already doing well, so why waste time on them? We need to take everybody with us, right? So that's a big difference that I saw. So rote learning is the way to go in our country, unfortunately, and it continues even when we come into IITs, because the habits do not change overnight that has been taught to us. Now, once you have been told the lies that your life is set in IIT, what happens when you come into IIT? You suddenly are surrounded by all these problems like coursework. In first year when I came, there was like this MA 105. I see some people laughing, so I hope, I mean, we all can relate to it. And there are a lot of unnecessary coursework that I encountered along my way, like MA 205, there was this Cauchy-Riemann theorem or something that I never applied in my life anywhere, but I still have to do it. Then there is hostel life, there is personal life issues. Then a lot of students are not able to focus on their physical fitness and mental health. And there is also a big issue of substance abuse. During my time, it was a big issue. I mean, for my wing, we were exposed to substance abuse in first year itself, which was very sad. At that time, due to peer pressure, we used to think that it's really cool. But now that I've grown up and I'm much more, I've seen the world, I kind of understand that it's a really bad thing. And add to that the rote learning and the constant habit of comparing with each other. Like I mentioned in my previous slide, that we are constantly comparing each other, like who has a higher CPI. This kind of develops a toxic environment and toxicity. We are supposed to help each other and we are supposed to be doing a teamwork. That is the kind of coursework that I experienced in the United States, where students are kind of helping each other instead of being toxic, like what we call in our lingo as RG. I don't know if the lingo has changed.
No, RG.
So, like during exam, we say, na, like RG macha rahe hai banda. So, that's the kind of toxicity that I have not noticed in other countries. And that is something that contributes to a lower CPI, a lack of focus on the students who are weak, and along with that a constant comparison, toxicity and the peer pressure. Now let's talk about the life in IIT Bombay and herd mentality. Rote learning is one thing, but then herd mentality is also a very big problem that I noticed. So in first year there is a very big trend that, hey, I'm going to bring a very big CPI and I'm going to change my branch to computer science or electrical, where students get a very high package. That's the fashion in first year. And let's not get started on JEE counseling, because we all just fill up our ranks in such a way that we try to get a field which is going to get us the biggest package during the placement. That is what happened during my time. I was good in chemistry, but I took chemical engineering. But when we decide what branch we want to take, there is nothing, very few students are there who actually take up the branch that they are really interested in. They really do the research work behind the branch. But since we have a very limited seats, we do not have that privilege to sit in the field of our choice, correct? So again, there is no clear cut and solid decision making behind choosing our branches. We just go according to our JEE ranks, correct? Does everybody agrees? So that's what happens in first year. Then in second year, I saw these trends that everyone wants to work as a coordinator and everyone wants to decorate their resumes by becoming a manager or a core group member in their third years for all these different institute IBs. And then in third year, the trend starts that you want to get an internship, you want to get the PPO. And in fourth year, the trend is to get placed on day one, week one. Now, these are the ultimate goals of the students that they want to do. Where is engineering on all of this? Nobody is thinking about engineering. You came here in an engineering institute, but we are not thinking a lot about how to solve engineering problems. Our goals are very short-sighted, you see. We do not focus on long-term. We are focusing on a very short-term pleasure and try to kind of get those dopamine spikes that we get through all these small glorifications that I discussed in the previous slides. And after graduation, I graduated in 2017, and I have a lot of very good friends who got placed on day one, day two. And when I interact with them and talk with them, they do not seem like they are satisfied. Even 2 or 3 friends who got in very good companies like Google and Samsung, they personally told me that, hey, you look more happy, how is that? And they told me that they are not satisfied with their job, so they left their job, they left the corporate life. And then some of them start to prepare for UPSC civil services exam, or some of them want to go into IIMs, and the whole circle kind of begins again. So these are the two main issues that also contribute to a lower CPI that I kind of try to analyze and think about it. So this is my perspective. This may or may not be true at all, and there might be some changes if we do thorough analysis. So the outcomes of rote learning and herd mentality is that there is no long-term goals. There is short-term happiness that hey, I got selected for JE, but after 5 years you don't have that happiness anymore. You got placed on day one, 5 years later it's gone. And then there is a late realization that life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And when the reality hits to most people who are continuously in the system, they feel lost and they feel sad. But for me, I was really lucky that I had such a poor CPI that I was not a part of the system anymore. I was assured that I would not get placed anywhere, and I was assured that nothing is going to happen with me in life. I will have to use my IIT tag and go and teach in coaching classes. That is what my friends and people told me. So I was like, okay, I'll tell you. So what did I do when I was an undergraduate student? So the first part of the talk was what contributes towards a lower CPI probably. So what did I do during my undergraduate studies that helped me go in a position in core industry and actually contribute towards engineering? So my strategy was do as many projects as possible. My coursework was already screwed. I kind of lost hope from the coursework. My strategy was simple. Do as many coursework as possible and do very, very meaningful learning. Now, I was very lucky. In my second year, we do this apping intern, right, where we write emails to professor and try to get an internship. And I got an internship in Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, where I was exposed to doing research in my second year summer. And after returning to IIT, I just wanted to do as many projects as possible because the exposure to research, it taught me how to learn in a meaningful way. Now, I decided I would do as many projects as possible, but you have to find time, there is so much coursework. So, we can take two institute electives and two department electives. During my time, that was the requirement. So, what I did was, I took Sitara's project for both my institute electives. And in Sitara's project, I worked with Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan from Computer Science Engineering Department, and we kind of went to rural areas and we tried to kind of promote and educate people about the biogas technology because there is so much bio waste in the rural areas. So we did that and we made spoken tutorial videos to explain them how biogas plants are made and how it is used in rural area. So that kind of gave me an exposure to a current problem that our government is trying to solve. Now, for my SLP project, I started to work with Professor Sanjay Mahajani. This was 1 year later, okay? After I got exposed to the biogas project and the problem with biogas, I kind of tried to connect the biogas problem to chemical engineering. My major was chemical engineering, so I started to work with Professor Sanjay Mahajani, and he was working on he worked on gases basically in chemical engineering. His research was on included gases. So I tried to explore different ways in which biogas can be purified because biogas has a lot of impurities which lowers its calorific value. Okay, so I worked on that and I proposed a research idea which focused on using membranes for biogas purification. And this was during my SLP. First semester, this is my department elective, and for second department elective, I started to work with Professor Belare because in IIT, his lab was the only lab which has the capacity of making these membranes for different applications. And I also proposed the idea to him that hey, we can use these hollow fiber membranes for purifying biogas. And they both got really happy, and they never asked me about my CPI or anything. I was just full into project and into research. And luckily that year there was uh, Make in India conference in Mumbai at BMC, where all these different prime ministers and presidents of different countries came. And my team, we kind of proposed we participated there, and our idea got selected. And I was able to present a poster there in front of everyone. And we also attended the industry academia symposium. So it kind of gave me more exposure to what are the different kind of problems that people are working on, what all industries are working on. And this is the point I realized that even though I have a very low CPI, lowest of all, I am getting more exposure than my classmates who are sitting in the class and kind of being very proud about their 9 pointers and 8 pointers and telling me that I won't go anywhere in life. So at this point, I realized that okay, there is a life outside IIT, outside campus. There are real world problems that need to be solved, and people are looking for problem solvers. So this was my dual degree project. After that, since I was a dual degree student, and I kind of developed these modules, and this was a preliminary setup that I made, which was a very bad one. But as I mentioned that I worked at Tata Center for Technology and Design. So this is my almost second year into doing the same work that I started from the biogas spoken tutorial video. You see, and then Tata kind of funded my project because we needed some very expensive parts. So they funded, and then I was able to design all this complicated setup, and this is for gas purification, for methane and carbon dioxide separation, and it is still here on campus in Professor Belare's membrane lab. So if you wish to go and see in person, you can see. So all this setup I was able to design, and I was able to make this in 6 months. So this kind of created a very strong base for me to kind of help me build a very strong base to go and pursue a career in industry. So this was my strategy. And these are some of my PhD applications that I did. I applied for University of California in Los Angeles. I got shortlisted despite my CPI. You see all those mark sheets, all of these universities, they require you to submit your transcript. And I had to send it to them. And I did not care about it because my resume and my statement of purpose was telling a story that I am someone who is capable to work on real life problems. So it didn't matter so much. I went on, I applied, and I always had a hope that I'm gonna get selected after all this hard work. In Arizona State University, I got accepted and with full funding where I'm working. University of Calabria in Italy accepted, but in Europe there is always a lack of funding. Even in Czech Republic, I got accepted, but the professor there told me that he does not have funding. And in both these cases, what I was doing was I was reading the research papers of these professors whom I was contacting, and I was trying to propose a research idea, what we could do to improve their research. I did not go blindly and tell that, hey, look, I have done this. My strategy was to read papers of professors related to my field and propose to them idea, because it worked previously for me with Professor Bellare and Mahajani, where I went by myself and said that hey, we can do this, and it worked really well. So I kind of read thoroughly and applied for PhD, proposing different ideas to only around 7 universities, not more than that, and I got accepted in one of them. Anyways, this is my academic performance again. After all these bad grades, I was still able to make it through to Arizona State University, and I'm doing really good, I would say, from where I was when I was in IITs. So the biggest misconception that I came across in IIT is that you need stellar academics like 9-pointer, 8-pointer to go and pursue MS and PhD or a career in a core industry. This is one of the biggest misconceptions that I wanted to kind of clarify among your minds today. And why would a university or an industry hire someone with a poor academic records for a PhD or some kind of position? So the answer is that MS and PhD or a career is not equals to coursework. Coursework is just the beginning. It's the first step that you take towards what you are going to do for maybe the rest of your life if you are going to go in research and core career. It's just the first step. And it's okay. I mean, when we grow up, when we start to learn how to walk, we fall many times. So it's completely okay. We pick ourselves up, we learn how to walk, and we start to run someday. So they are looking for problem solvers. Okay, they are looking for someone who can use the books or whatever you learn in your lectures. They are not looking for someone who can memorize all these things. They are looking for someone who can use the things that are taught in engineering as a tools. So you need to look at engineering as their tools. You see, you have a screwdriver. You do not need to learn or become a screwdriver. You need to learn how to use it. In similar way, we do not need to memorize what we are being taught. We need to learn how to use these equations, and even there are a lot of students who kind of face difficulty with mathematics and differential equations. So in my PhD until now, I have not solved any differential equations. The software does it for me. So you need to learn the softwares which kind of solve all these complicated differential equations and everything. It's not necessary that you solve here like you do here in exams. That's not how real world works, because if you do that, it's a waste of time. And industries in a capitalist world, they do not have time. There is always a rival company who is working and everyone is short on time. They have to come with the best possible products. So you need to learn to take engineering as tools and need to learn how to use your subjects as a tool instead of like rote learning and memorizing them. So what could be your strategy? I specifically used could because I do not want it to use the word should. What should be your strategy? What could be your strategy? Because you should modify your strategy as per your long-term goals. Every one of you is different, and every one of you has may have a different long-term goal in life. So stop rote learning and practice meaningful learning by doing more projects that are related to your major. Look for some of the problems that are currently being issued in the field of engineering, what the governments are trying to do, what the industries are trying to do, what is related to your field. Look for those problems and try to do some projects with professors. And professors, I know it may get a little bit uncomfortable. When I was a student, I used to hesitate to go and meet professors because of my low CPI. But trust me, not all professors are like Hitler or Mussolini. Some of them are really nice. They are going to help you and they can make a real difference in helping you guide in a better way. So you can approach professors, you can do good projects with them, and stop to follow the herd mentality. Do not get influenced by your peers and always pursue your own path by setting up long-term goals. When you start doing projects, you will understand what are the different problems that you will do, and you will kind of get a clarity what you want to achieve in a long term. For me, I want to contribute towards making renewable energy successful in future, and I also want to improve the education system around the world, starting from India, obviously my home country. And set long-term goals and seek help from professors and find good mentors who have achieved what you wanted to achieve in life. So look for people who are already in the position where you want to be and try to connect with them, talk to them. And people really, they are always helpful. from institute, there are a lot of alumni in different places, in different universities. They are always looking forward to help the current students. And most important thing is that you will not find your long-term goals overnight. You need to keep trying new things and you need to keep doing multiple projects. Only then you will realize what could be your long-term goals. So tips on finding long-term goals is look for real-life problems that governments and humanity in general are trying to address. Example are climate change, there are different viruses, etc. Try to do projects that are related to these real-life problems and try to find a connection between your major right now, whatever is your field of engineering, and that real-life problem. So this may open up different visions for you and you may be able to find long-term goals in your life. So these are some of the people who helped me in my career. Professor Jayesh Billare was my PI when I was in Tata Center. Professor Sanjay Mahajani was the first one to who agreed to guide me in the SLP project. Professor Rahul Purwar was one of the most kind of influential person in my life. In one of the summers I had backlog in BB 101, and I was doing his course and there were only 5 students. So he shared his story that he did his B.Tech from some private college and he had only like 40 or 45% marks. Then he did some M.Tech from I think BHU, I don't remember his university, but he had 55% marks there. But he went on to do engineering, a PhD in Germany, in University of Hamburg. So he was kind of one of the most influential and kind of motivational person that if he was able to achieve it. So he was the one who helped me the same way I'm trying to help you today by telling his story. And Dr. Jyotandani is my colleague and my batchmate who really helped me with my SOP and resume. You should definitely read his MS PhD upping guide. If you do not have it, let me know. I will send to one of the coordinators and he'll forward it to you. He is right now doing his postdoc in Yale University, and Dr. Ian Norona did his PhD from Carnegie Mellon University, and he was also my batchmate. He also helped me a lot in refining my statement of purpose and resume. So fun fact, I got a FR in Professor Jayesh Bilare's course, and he wrote me a letter of recommendation for my PhD application when I worked with him. This was, if you go on his website, you will see that he has a very clear eligibility criteria that you need AA in his course to get a letter of recommendation. And I got an FR, and till this date he does not know that I got an FR, and I managed to do M.Tech and also did a position as RA under him, and I don't know if he noticed or not, but yeah, I got an FR in his course. I never I couldn't believe that, oh hey, he has this kind of policy and he still wrote me a letter of recommendation. So if you have poor or average academics, remember this. This is one of the gifts that I received from my master student that I was able to supervise, and he gave me this really beautiful gift. When I was in IIT, I was told that I am a terrible chemical engineer. I do not deserve to be a chemical engineer. My mark sucks. So this is one of the best gifts I got in my life, where he said that I am a terrific chemical engineer. You can try to read this in Donald Trump's voice, just for fun. So that was the presentation. Thank you. Okay, I'm ready for questions.
So after your M.Tech, you applied only in the US.
No, I applied in Europe as well.
Yeah, US and I mean, but if you apply in India, you'll find no college, no research institute. I don't know actually which doesn't have the CPI criteria.
No, in
Right?
India, we have a quality system of
Yeah,
meritocracy in India.
yeah. So
So,
most of the people who are in India, they have to like they are very stressed that if they have less CPI, less
yes,
than 6 or 7.5, they can't get into any private sector, public sector. Everyone has a criteria.
correct.
So what's your take on that? Yeah, how can we manage that?
I see the meritocracy system as a very faulty system.
Yeah,
It's not inclusive.
yes.
It's very, very exclusive that only this many people should get
So my
education.
argument is, if you are passing a student at 40%, then why are you keeping a criteria of 65% to get into something? Then you should just keep a criteria of 65% for the passing or get a degree.
Yeah, that's correct. If I luckily become an education minister
Yeah,
of this country, I'll change that.
yes, for sure. So have you ever like thought of coming back to India and like, pursue research here or become a professor in IIT or something like that?
I haven't given it a thought yet. My kind of long-term goals, for next immediate 10 years, I see those in United States because currently the project I'm working on is a very cutting-edge project, and I do not think they have those facilities to do research in India. Our country spends very less money as compared to US and China on research. Even though we are fourth in like research and expenditure, research and development spending, I think Japan, China, and United States are the other four. But United States spend so much money, they have so much resources and funds available that if I want to have a big impact on chemical engineering, I kind of see myself for at least next 10, 15 years to establish myself in chemical engineering in the United States.
We don't have that in education institute. You might have research in industry, but in like IITs or big institutes.
Even in industry, you see most of the big players they are using technology that has been developed in other countries. For example, I will give you a big example of steel industry. India is ranked second or third in terms of producing steel in the world. First is China. China produces like uh, how many 1,000 tons maybe per year. And yeah, and second or third is India. But the you see the blast furnace technology that we use today, it's very outdated. If you look at the newer technology which use natural gas, both the countries have developed both. There are only two technologies. One is Midrex, another is Energy On, and both technologies are not developed in India. So I see that there is a lack of funding in India because even I struggled as an MTech student when I was working with Professor Mahajani and I said that hey we should build this cool experimental setup that I showed you, what I built with Tata. So he explained me that hey that's not how things work. You can't just come up with an idea and boom you make a setup. You have to acquire funding and we were short on funding, but luckily we got it from Tata. So Tata in IIT is funding a lot of cool projects. If you go to them with a proposal, I would highly encourage you all to like kind of go there. So does that clarify?